Welcome back to Point Karting in our YouTube channel, and today is a very exciting day in our DR Mini 18 chassis build because we are going to be finishing off the graphics on this chassis. Now when you last saw this kart, it didn't have any graphics on it. Going through and doing a full graphics install on this go-kart was going to take a lot of time, and I figured you guys didn't necessarily want to see all of it, but we'll definitely show you some cool highlights here, some cool painting shots of all the graphics once it's come out. But I've got the last panel here to finish this go-kart off, and I want to walk through how to do the graphics install on the go-kart and do it properly. Really, the major tools that you need on a new go-kart are the graphics themselves and a heat gun. You don't necessarily need a heat gun if you're out in a warm area with above room temperature kind of temperatures, then you may not need one. But as you can tell from the hoodie that I've worn through this whole series, it's cold here in Colorado. We've got a lot of snow going on right now, so a heat gun is a must. With new bodywork, you don't necessarily need to abrade the surface, but sometimes some people like to take a Scotch-Brite or even light sandpaper and just gently kind of abrade the surface to help the graphics actually stick that much better. But we're going to go ahead and install the side pod graphic, and that's going to finish off the graphics on this kart, which means that only an alignment and some basic nut and bolt checks remain before we send this off to a happy new customer. The first step when you're dealing with your graphic is there's a protective film on the very front, and if you're going to ever apply any heat, you want to go ahead and just pull that off. Not all graphics have them. These are a thicker graphic here with the DR kart. They're really high quality. Some graphics are a little bit thinner. Then of course you want to peel back the main layer. Some people that are new to graphics, you may want to only start by doing sections, so only peel parts off. But on the side pod graphic, it really isn't that hard to do kind of in one fell swoop. Then I'm going to take my heat gun, heat it up, and I'm just going to work down my graphic kind of as I go. And I'm not getting super close, maybe 2 or 3 inches from the back side of my graphic. Note how I'm kind of keeping the heat gun moving. I'm not hanging out in one spot too long, but I can feel the plastic starting to kind of get a little bit more soft in my hand. And you want to do, 2 or 3 passes. Again, if you're in a warmer climate, a warmer environment, you don't need to heat it up as much, but here it's pretty cold, so you really want to make sure it's nice and warm. And then set down the heat gun again, being careful to not set it down on anything flammable. This allows the graphic to be nice and pliable. Next step is crouch down, find a nice reference mark here. There's a crease on the bottom of the side pod that I'm going to use. And the adhesive on these is pretty durable, so if you start and say you go a little bit too far forward, just quickly pull it back. You don't want to do this a lot of times, obviously, but if you need to do it once or twice, my favorite reference points are that bottom crease there, and then the back of my side pod. I think I'm just a little bit too far back this time. Don't fall down, that's another trick of the trade. And just keep working it until you find the spot that you like. And once you're happy with where it's going to sit, another trick is you can kind of peel the front back. If the front's aligned well, but the back not so much. And then you can start bringing it in. So now I'm just working with my fingers to kind of start on the center of the graphic. And again, you don't want to do this with dirty hands, but I figured that went without saying. And now I've got the base in, and there's a crease about halfway along the graphic. I can feel it's getting just a little bit cold, so I'm just going to reapply just a few passes of heat. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Back and forth, up and down. And that's probably more than enough for right now. I may do another piece of heat when I fold this over. But again, I'm just working it back and forth, just working out any air bubbles, progressively working my way up the side pod. Right about when I get to the top of this side panel, when it's about to fold over, that's when I'm going to stop and probably reapply some more heat and just check and make sure there's no major air bubbles here along the top. So again, I'll just give it a little bit more heat. There is definitely such a thing as too much heat. If you start doing too much, you'll see this is starting to bubble just a little bit, starting to bend just a little bit. I haven't damaged the graphic, but it's trying to, it's telling me that it's plenty soft to work. And so now we'll just start to work that edge. I'm kind of using the palm of my hand to just gently work that back and forth. And you can see this wavy pattern starting to happen. If that happens, that's okay, but you want to try and work those waves out as soon as you can. And so I just progressively kind of work my way back and forth across the graphic. And then once I sense that I can really get parts of the sticker down, then I'll go ahead and put that down. And I'm going to start working these grooves out. And if we see other parts of the graphic kind of bubble up, that's okay. Part of the trick of getting these ripples out, if they start to form, is to not manhandle the graphic, just kind of keep working at it. And as hokey as it sounds, just kind of let the graphic work its own stress out. If you push on one part and another part raises up, that means that it's building up stress in between. So then you want to, kind of work the area in between and then work that out. And then you get a nice, smooth graphic install. So some of the biggest mistakes people make when they start putting graphics on go-karts is they'll try and work on one small spot and get that absolutely perfect and ignore the rest of it, when working kind of in lines back and forth is really one of the best ways to get graphics on and minimize the number of bubbles. Now, admittedly, I'm not perfect. I'll always get, one or two bubbles here or there. There's one on the nose panel that's bothering me. The other thing to keep in mind is inevitably there are going to be some spots that are going to be irregular, and those just are a side effect of the injection molding marks from when they actually made the plastic. And the graphic's going to adhere to that as best as they can, but you may not be able to get those out 100%. So the very last area that I see just a little bit of a rise is right here, so I'm just going to give it a little bit more heat. Not a lot, just a little bit. And then I'll just work it with just a little bit more pressure. Again, I can see just a smaller version of what I saw before, where I go over that radius and it kind of lifts up. Just want to work that out until it sits on there the way it wants to sit without it riding back up. And I think we're good. So I think we have our side graphic on. This kart and a whole lot more are available now on pointkarting.com.